What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of The Inside, and just kind of quick business item. I am incredibly excited to come to you from my new home office. You see here, probably get more looks at this as I create more of these videos, but as we finally started to get settled into the house, I now have a really gangster downstairs basement that is going to be the epicenter for all things rogue risk and the inside for the foreseeable future. And as both businesses grow, and particularly rogue risk, I'm sure we'll have like a day-to-day office eventually. Right now, I am working out of this space, and I have a co-working space that I'm using down in Troy, New York, which is about 5 minutes from my house, which is lovely, beautiful space that if I do need to meet with someone in person and need a conference room or whatever for that meeting, that is a perfectly good space for that. And I may actually do an episode around choosing a space and how you make the decision on whether to start a physical location in the future. Today's edition is about conferences. Now, I'm recording this one day or the day before I leave for IAOA's Innovation 2020 in San Diego. So IAOA, the Independent Agency Owners Alliance, started as a free Facebook group. There is much more to it today. They have a conference as well, which meets once a year, usually in January. This, I think, is the 6th year of the conference. It's my very first time going. And though it's my first time going to this conference, I have literally been to hundreds of insurance conferences over the last decade. Mostly because I've been a speaker and I've done over 200 speaking events, keynote and breakout sessions in the insurance industry in those years. And then also because my time at Agency Nation and my time at Bold Penguin required me to travel quite a bit to different events for all kinds of business-related functions. Now, because of that, I think I have a unique perspective on events in general, or at least I have a perspective based in a massive amount of experience. And here's my take on events. We can go to, there are more events. The only thing you could do is go to events. Like there is an event every week. There are multiple events you could go to. Group events. You could go to network or cluster events. You could go to technology, insurtech related events. You could go to association events. And then there's most of the associations, both national and state associations, have all different events that they have. Then you have local community, out of industry events that you could go to. You have niche market events. You have sales events. You have events for the different vendor technologies that you have. Carriers have events. MGAs have events. So you get the point. There are thousands of different events, and I've been to at least one of almost all of them, like one version of them. I haven't been to every carrier's events, but I have been to, if you categorize each type of event, which there's probably a couple dozen different categories that you could come up with, I've probably been to I've probably hit an event in every single category. All right. I spent a lot of time on the road, and I've been at these things. I've seen people produce them. I've talked to people. It's been a blessing, but it's a lot of travel. And here's the things you need to consider with events. First and foremost, how long is the event? How much time is it going to take up? What is the travel? Like should be an enormous concern of yours. I, for a long time, did not respect my own time. I didn't value my own time. So I would see an event and I would see the potential of what I could learn or the potential of who I could connect to, and I would go full bore in, right? I wanted to potentially get whatever value was there. And I didn't respect my own time, because what happens is you're not doing the work that needs to get done for the business that is supporting why you're actually going to that event in the first place. So be very, very protective of your time. Don't overcommit on events. I've made that mistake many times. I've had to have many come to Jesus moments with my significant other because she would look at me and be like, why are you going to this event? Like, what does it do for you? And though many of those events are why I have the contacts in the insurance industry that I have, it puts a lot of stress, a lot of strain on your relationships, on your home life, on your friendships, on your work in general, the people you work with, because traveling is just takes you away from your work. Now, yeah, with Wi-Fi on planes and laptops and mobile phones and stuff, yeah, you can connect and be relatively productive, but it's a low level productivity. You're often distracted. It's tough to do deep work or flow state work unless you can really lock in on a plane. And it's just, it comes with added stress and time away. So be very, very protective of that time first and foremost. Okay. So once you've decided, okay, I have the ability to attend an event this quarter, right? So that's the next piece of this. So think about the time, think about what it does to your business. Are you setting up the processes behind the scenes to make sure that when you're away, things are still gonna get done? Everything's not gonna drop on the floor, blow up in your face, and you're gonna regret going. That's what you don't want. Okay, once you have that in place, move on to what is a cadence that is reasonable for you to attend events. I think one a quarter is very reasonable. And we'll get to the benefits of going to conferences once we get past kind of working through criteria of when to go. So I think once a quarter is a very legitimate time frame. Once a month, unless you're trying to push a product out into the market, unless there's a purpose to it, once a month is probably way too much. So once a quarter makes a lot of sense for an event. I'm not talking about like a networking lunch. I'm talking about like a real conference that you go to and spend time at, network. Once a quarter feels very reasonable, okay? But you'll have to pick. It could be, budget-wise, it could be twice a year or once a year. That's up to you, because that's the next piece of this equation. What is your budget for that event? Can you afford the travel? Can you afford the hotel? Are you going to be able to eat while you're there, right? Like, these are questions that you have to bring up. Like, you don't want to go to an event, spend a couple grand, come back, look at your bank account and be like, oh man, I'm in trouble. That's a really bad situation to be in. You're supposed to be going to the conference to network and derive some value, which helps you grow, expand, whatever your goals are for your business, not put yourself in financial destitution. So you've kind of thought about the impact, set your business up, you've thought about a cadence that makes sense, and you have a reasonable idea of what a good budget would be for you to go. And there's many ways that you can be budget conscious. Stay at a cheaper hotel that isn't the hotel that the conference is in. Fly in the back of the plane. All the airlines have had these real bare bones flight options now. Fly at off hours to try to reduce that cost. That's one of the things that I'm doing for IOA is I'm taking a red eye back on Saturday night. I leave at 11 p.m. and get into Albany at 10 a.m. And as much as that's terrible, one, I want to kind of be home for my kids on the weekend, but two, significantly, a couple $100 less in price to take that red eye versus flying in the middle of the day on Sunday. So there's ways that you can do that. All right, so you have an idea. You have an idea that you can leave. You have a cadence for the amount of times you feel like you should be able to leave, and you have an idea of what a budget would be for a conference event. Now you need to pick one. Here's my perspective. I think you should try to, as much as possible and as much as it makes sense, try to hit a couple different categories. Try to maybe take your best carrier or the carrier you're trying to build the deepest relationship and attend their event. A group like IAOA where you're surrounded by other independent agency owners who the whole nature of the group is to openly share, that feels like a really good place to be. Maybe a boutique event like Jason Cass's Brain Share or Billy Williams's Fix My Agency workshops, right? Like something that Brent Kelly and Roger Sitkins are doing. Like one of these boutique events, which is going to be a smaller group, say 20 to 150, that's a fairly smaller group, 150 being on the larger end, 20 to 25 being very intimate. one of these smaller groups where you can really get your hands into something, where you can really feel like it's not just sitting in a conference room listening to someone or listening to someone talk to you. You're actually got your computer open, you're digging into things. That's really quality event. And then the last one might be a solid vendor partner, or just something else that feels good, a technology event, right? Maybe it's a local InsurTech, like an InsurTech Hartford, or maybe if you really go and baller, go out to ITC, InsurTech Connect in Vegas. Jay Weintraub runs a tremendous event out there. Maybe it's one of the ACT events. Maybe it's a state association event. Highly recommend that. So the key is a solid smattering of events. You want different inputs from different events. That's the key. Right? If you're just going to the same conferences over and over and over again with the same topics and the same people, you're never going to learn anything new. So make sure you're bringing different inputs in. These conferences are supposed to add value to your agency, to your business. That's the point. Okay. Once you understand what events you're going to go to, the next step is understanding what you want to get out of those events. You need to have a goal, a reason for going, a purpose. I like to have one goal and then some ancillary goals around that, some nice value adds, some extra people. But like, what's the one thing that if you travel all the way to this place and you go to this conference and you spend this time and you get this, what is the one thing you want to take back? Have a goal, have a singular goal. You can have secondary goals. I also want to talk to this person. Man, I'd love to get a demo on this thing. I really want to hear this person speak. That's all gravy. But what's that one thing that if you don't do, the conference is a bust? That have a one thing. That way you get it done. It happens. That's the important part. These conferences take time away from your life, your family. They take money, resources, brain power. They create stress. You got to travel. All of that is not worth it if you're just going to go get hammered drunk, be hungover the next day, and blow off the whole conference. Do not make that mistake. Have a goal, execute that goal. This is work. Now, sure, you can have fun. Sure, you can crack jokes. Sure, you can go on the cruise or play golf or have a couple pops or whatever. I'm not saying don't have fun, but I'm saying don't allow that fun to get in the way of executing your goal for the reason that you came to that conference. Okay, once you have that goal, once you know why you're going, this is the part, this next piece is the mistake that everyone makes. Up until this point, I think most people would probably be like, okay, that all makes sense. Here's the last piece. You have to implement your success. You have to implement. You have to have time to implement. You've achieved the goal. You've gathered the information. You've bought the product. You've learned the thing. You've connected with the person. Now you need to implement. And this is the mistake, is people either they don't do the thing. They go, they learn about automation, they go talk to the automation vendors, and then they come back and they do nothing. And then a year later, they go to the same conference, learn about automation, talk to the automation vendors, and do nothing. And then they complain that their business isn't moving forward, or they're struggling with technology or whatever. Have a plan for post-conference implementation. Have someone who's going to help you do it in your office, or someone in the industry, if you're just a solo shop like me, who's going to hold you accountable. Hold yourself accountable. Have your spouse hold you accountable, your best friend, whatever. Like, have someone who's going to hold you accountable for the implementation of the reason that you went, right? I have a very specific reason for going to IAOA, very specific. There's one dinner that I'm part of that I believe is going to help me put the final pieces in place for Rogue to be successful, the way that I want to build Rogue. I'm very, very excited and honored to be asked to be part of this dinner. And what I hope to get out of it is the reason that I'm going. And then the implementation of that, I've already built time. I've already started, kind of downshifting on taking new meetings over the next 2 weeks, because implementing that strategy, putting that strategy into place is like goal one. Right? And then and making sure that I can do that. And I think that's the piece that so many people forget. So, okay, let's just wrap this up, kind of recap here. You want to make sure that you've put your business in a place where you can take the time, right? That the whole thing isn't going to collapse when you leave. Once you do that, pick a cadence that makes sense. Don't space them out too far because you won't learn anything new. Don't have them too close together because it'll cost a ton and you're not going to have time to implement. I think quarterly is really nice. Twice a year is good depending on your budget and depending on the events you go to. You have to kind of figure out what that is, but that feels like a good cadence. 2, 3, 4 events a year, and then local events as you can smatter them in. Make sure you have the budget and that you budget properly so that you're not putting yourself in a poor financial position by going to this event. Once you choose the events that you're going to go to, and you want to make sure you have a wide selection of events, or as wide as possible, something from technology, something with other agents, something boutique-y, maybe something in industry, an association event or a carrier event. Make sure that you have a good cross-cut of events so you can take in lots of different inputs. Have a goal, define, write it down, have a clear goal for every conference that you go to. Once you attend that conference, execute on that goal. Do not get drunk. Do not spend all your time on the golf course. Don't screw off in the back. Don't spend all your time doing the work for your business up in your room. You came to this conference. There's no reason to be doing agency work at a conference, or if you want to limit that as much as possible, because you came to the conference for a reason. Otherwise, you should have just stayed home and done agency work, okay? And then once you execute on your goal at that conference, have a plan to implement what you learned. And that's what makes a successful conference for an independent insurance agent. If you have questions about conferences, go to the Facebook group, ask about different conferences, ask about anything that you heard here. If I haven't been or don't know about the conference, I'm sure other members have. You'll get tons of feedback. We can talk through the best conferences. And if you're watching this and you're going to IAOA either this year or years in the future, hopefully I will see you there. Thanks for being part of the Inside. Make sure you jump in the Facebook group, be active, ask questions. That's why I created this group in the first place. Thank you. I love you. I'm out of here. Peace.